All right, so we're back at it here. We're going to finish off these marquees and do some other finishings. I've already mounted the monitor on both of these, just kind of to make sure that I rough fit them in. It's pretty straightforward on how they work. I will show you me mounting them or whatever after this. So we're going to work from the top of the machine down and go from there. During this process, we're also going to mount our joysticks, our buttons. We're going to mount in our audio amp. We're going to put in our coin door, so on and so forth. Make sure that everything is all set and done. This machine is going to get plexiglass for the front, and we're going to paint that. So take a look at doing monitor plexi, and that'll all be in the monitor section when we're mounting the monitors and doing all that fun stuff. I just wanted them in here from a little bit more for effect and personal kind of fit here, so I can see if it's all good to go. So I've just dry fit this marquee in here. There's nothing holding it in there except for pressure. We cut it just, exact size that we need it. Obviously there's no bend, no nothing in here, so it'll hold and it's all good. What we're gonna do is use this angle bracket here. Now, this is at Rona Home Depot, hardware place. You can get it. It's basically cornered tile stuff. So you can get it at flooring places, tiling places, that type of thing. It's just a 90-degree version of Schluter, if you know what that's all about. But it's aluminum that's powder coated black. Some of them are gold, some of them are brass, some of them are aluminum, some of them are brushed steel. So you can kind of get a little bit of different effects on this. To cut this stuff, I highly recommend taking your time and using like a little Dremel, using a hacksaw, that type of a thing. We do cut it on the table saw if we have an old blade on there, because it'll chew your blade up pretty quick. So if you're getting ready sometime to change that blade out, you can do it on there as well. Never use a miter saw, never use anything like that. These things, it's metal, it's tricky, you don't want to do that. You can use a grinder to cut this as well. Just make sure you use a lower setting. You don't want to melt it versus cut it, and make sure that you account for the thickness of your grinder or your grinding wheel. All right, so this is what it's going to look like in the end. It's going to kind of clip over like that. So we're going to do for the top and the bottom. So we're going to measure this out and cut it to the exact same width as our marquee plexi, okay? And then we're going to cut two, one for the bottom, one for the top. We'll be doing the same for that, so we'll do them at the exact same time, and then we'll show you what we do. So we kind of drill little holes, pre-drill holes in there, and use some finishing screws to finish them off, and that holds that all in there and makes it nice and simple. All right, we're going to cut these bad boys and come back. All right, so I've cut my angled brackets, the Schluter, whatever you want to call it. It's basically tile edging. There's two different types here. I'll tell you the reason why. One is 3/4 inch. This is stuff I got from Home Depot. This is some stuff that's 1/2 inch that I got, and it's from like a specialty flooring place here in town. They're both aluminum. One's a matte finish, the other one's a powder coated finish. There's not much difference in them. They're both kind of somewhat delicate. If you scratch them with something, it'll leave like a little mark or whatever. You'll see the aluminum underneath. It'll scratch the paint off, so be nice to them. They're not black all the way through. We are going to be drilling some holes in them. I've already marked out my holes. Usually I do 4 holes, 4 screws holding these in, but these ones are very small, so they're only like 16 inches, so 16 and a half. So I'm going to only put 3 holes in them. The reason why I went with a smaller 1/2 inch on this one here is because here on our edge, it's very flush. So I don't have a lot of room to hide the actual bracket itself. So it'll actually leave just a little tip of this sharp little edge there. So I'm going to sand that down or grind it down just a bit, and then I'll paint it with some sort of enamel, or you can probably even use a Jiffy marker if you wanted to, but I don't know how well that would stay. But I'm going to do that so there's no sharp edge there, but there will be just a little bit of a lip there. On this one here, it'll all be hidden within the design and everything here. So that's what it's kind of for. And we're going to put the 3/4 in there because it's stronger and so on and so forth. This one will be more for aesthetic purposes. That's why we're going with the 1/2 inch. All right, so I'm going to drill some holes here and get us set up here and show you how to do that. All right, so what we're doing is my little marks that I put in here. Obviously I have a place to start. Just cover that up, then I can eyeball this out. If you're off by a millimeter or so, nobody's really gonna notice. But you wanna get it as perfect as possible because you're gonna have it line up on the top and the bottom, and the marquee is very close to each other, so you'll be able to see kind of where those line up. So you wanna be as accurate as you can. But that's why I do the marks. All right, so the other thing I'm gonna do here, which I'll show you, is when I drill the holes, I'm gonna drill them about 1/4 of an inch in from the outside of the edge, or the outer edge here. The reason why I wanna do that is so that I get as much meat on the actual wood when we're drilling it into there as possible. You don't wanna put it in the center of this, and then you're only about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the actual wood on the machine. Now, with that being said, as always, there's always some sort of caveat. With this 1/2 inch, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna go even closer to the edge because we wanna get as much meat as possible. But with only being 1/2 inch, you kind of have no choice. The screws that we're putting in are fairly small, so it won't do too much damage and too much aggression on it. But nonetheless, you still wanna kind of get that all ready to rock. Okay. So you can see it goes through pretty easy. You're gonna wanna do this over, obviously, a scrap piece of wood or something like that, because you don't wanna ruin your bench. Take your best sides for that, and don't drill on your best side, okay? Because your best side is the side that's gonna be showing in the front, all right? So if you have a scratch, a nick, just any blemishes, whatever, you kind of want to hide them that way. I don't know why, but materials are just really good materials, quality stuff. No matter how much you pay for it, it's really hard to find something that's good that's not damaged. When I went there, I'll show you here, this is what I'm talking about. So when I go to the store, I go and look at, there's like a bundle, 2, 3 bundles. Start going through, you're looking at 10 of them or so. I don't know if you can see it at this point, but then there's this kind of like little tiny scratch right there below my nail. That's a pain in the ass. There's nothing you can do. I mean, you can take out different chunks, but then there's a little one there and a little one there and a little one there. So you're gonna have to kind of do your best with the materials that you get. Hopefully you can get better materials than I was able to at this point in time. But you can always change these out. These are interchangeable parts. You can always just use it as a template on another piece if that's something that bothers you or whatever. But that's unfortunately a pass in our scenario and setup as we are. And that's the way it goes. Okay, so now we're on our 1/2 inch material. Okay, so I'm gonna go right to the edge. Okay. All right, so you can see that I'm just giving just a little bit. So basically the distance between here and the hole, I'm trying to leave enough room so that the head of the screw stays within the border of our bracket and it doesn't go over and kind of look funky and weird, right? So that's all I'm looking to do. You want to get as close to the edge as possible. Okay, so the reason why I'm eyeballing this out and not just like throwing this over top of the other one and doing it as a template and so on and so forth is it creates a burr when you go through there. Even if you grind that off and do whatever and then you put it on the top and you do that and you kind of template it out so you get the exact holes and that type of a thing in there, you can scratch this material up. So
preferably, I'd rather be off by a millimeter right or left or back and front, that type of a thing, by eyeballing it out and not being picture perfect, than taking the chance of scratching it all up and making it look like crap. All right, so what we do from here is we bolt all this stuff on right into the wood. We use finishing screws like so. So I'll show you these bad boys. Now these, the only place I've ever been able to find these is at Home Depot. We'll put a link to it there for you, but it's pretty much the only place I can find them. I found some other ones that are similar on Amazon and stuff, but even like specialty fastener places and stuff don't usually carry these. They're considered framing screws. So you'll look for those if you go down to the old Home Depot. All right, so I'm going to change out the bit. You want to set your setting low. You don't want to be too aggressive, obviously, because you don't want to strip out your spot and everything else. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start on the bottom one first of both of these, because I can reach them from here and we can kind of video it and that whole meal deal. And then I'm going to bring these down on the ground for our second part and then show you how I put it all on from there. Okay, so make sure you're straight, make sure it's even. I always do the middle one first. Sometimes I don't wait for it to click on the drill, I'll just wait for it to snug right up, and then I'm happy with that. If you want to go back by hand and put it tighten it up a little more with the screwdriver, feel free to do that. Then you get more of a feel in there. You don't want to strip these. And the other thing too is now we're doing this. I'm actually going to put a light in here. So I'm actually going to take these out, take this off, and then when we do our wiring section for everything, we're going to put a light in there. So the monitor will be gone, your speakers will be out, all that fun stuff. We'll take all that out so that we can wire everything and put it in as we go. But for now, I'm just showing you how the brackets go in. If you want to wait until after you've got your lights and all that stuff in there, you can feel free to do that. All right, so this one here, I'm just gonna get to zoom in here. See that corner edge there? That's the one I was talking about. It's a little sharp. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over and sand that down real quick, and I'll show you how I do that, and then we'll install this little bad boy. Okay, so there's a ton of different ways you can do this. I'm just looking to put like maybe a 25, 30 degree angle on there and just sand off just a little bit of a nick of my corner there. I don't want to dig into the material. I don't want to do whatever. It's going to misshape this just a tad on both sides, but that's, you know, part of the deal. When it comes to this stuff, you're kind of doing fitment for custom stuff. Everything's custom along the way, so you're going to have to deal with the trials and tribulations of that. Now, you can use an orbital sander to sand that. This is going to be a little bit more precise because I can keep both hands on it and go that way. You can use big sanding disc, belt sander, whatever you want to use. You can use a grinder, use a Dremel tool. You can just put sandpaper on the table and then just rub it that way. There's 100 different ways to do it. I'm going to use this bad boy, and let's get going. So I'm happy with that. I didn't actually take away any material here, so it's going to go to its fullest extent there. We didn't like groove it right out. I just rounded off that tip. Now it's going to need some paint and stuff, so we'll deal with that. I'll put some enamel on there, and I'm going to grind this bad boy just a tad more, and then we'll move on and install it. There you go. I'm happy with that. Looks beautiful. Okay, so we got our edge here. I'm just about to install it. I know I said paint it with enamel. Go ahead, do that if you want. You're probably gonna have to dab it on with a brush, that type of thing. I know I did say with Jiffy marker and all that stuff, but we've done this plenty of times over with scratches and things like that on here. It seems to absorb and hold it really well. It doesn't wash off or anything. You just got to give it a couple seconds to dry. So you draw that on there. You don't even know, can't even tell. It's all good to go. It is a little bit wet. If you were to brush it, move it, whatever, you're going to wipe it off for now. But it is seeping into the actual metal for a little bit there. If you don't like the finish when you do that, you can always just take a little piece of emery cloth or really high, like their 320 grit sandpaper we've been using, and just hit it once or twice. Just rub it real light. It'll come off, hit it with some enamel, and then you'll be good to go. But this should be more than sufficient. All right? All right, so she's up in there. And just get our screw set here. All right. Happy day. Same here. All right. All right, so it's nice and tight. That ain't going anywhere. Yeah, and just follow the same one from the top. So I'm gonna pull these down and then we'll do the top and I'll show you how I did that. Then it'll be all nice and finished and we'll show you the end product. And then we're gonna move down to our monitors. Now the speakers are gonna work the same way with the same screws and stuff, but we wanna put wires in those speakers. So I'm gonna do kind of the speakers at the same time as, you know, putting in a bit of wiring as well too. All right, so yeah, I'll bring these down and then check it all out. All right, so we got these down low. I've already just put them in place. Just set them on there and good to go. So we're just doing our set screws in there and calling it a day. So now this one's the plywood one, so you really want to be nice to it. These screws will strip in the plywood super easy, so take your time, be gentle. And then we come over to this one, and this one's the MDF one. So now this one here, it won't strip as easy, but it doesn't like to, MDF doesn't really like you to take screws, put screws in and then take them out, put them in, take them out. It's not really a good idea, a good plan to do that. So we're only gonna do that once with these, with this one. We're gonna be really gentle. I'm not gonna seat them all the way because we're gonna go back and take these out and then put them back in, and then I'll seat it when it's all complete after there's a light in there. All right, so that's it, that's all. Come around front and take a look at what they look like. You can see the two different thicknesses and types, right? So these brackets are obviously bigger, they're gonna be stronger, that type of a thing. These are smaller, they give you a little bit more viewing angle, all that fun stuff. The thing is, once this is backlit, you're gonna see, because it's 3/4 inch material and this is only 1/2 inch, it's actually only gonna light up, you know, below that thing. So you're actually gonna get a shadow of the 3/4 inch, where here, the bracket's gonna block that off anyway. So it might look a little odd at times. So it depends on how it goes, or how you wanna make it work and look in the end. But with the lights off, that looks way nicer. With the lights on, this is what it's gonna look like no matter what. So, yeah. Moving on to do some monitor action.